Having a video on YouTube is a small part of the equation. The greater part of the battle is actually winning the click through a combination of both your title and your thumbnail. So the main question is, how do you create thumbnails that can win the click cheaply and effectively? So today that is specifically what I want to help with. I want to show you how to win the click free and easily here on YouTube. And you're not going to believe what software I suggest you use. In fact, I'm so certain you're not going to believe me. Let me show you the evidence to support that first. My name is Commander Tom, and I have submitted over 100 videos to YouTube already, with click-through rates averaging above 5% on average, crawling all the way up to 7, 10%, even hitting 27% sometimes. All of this thumbnail art, in fact all of my channel art, was developed with a very simple program that you probably already have on your computer, Microsoft PowerPoint. But wait, before you laugh, let me show you how you can make thumbnails to win the click. Alright, now, advance notice here. I admit that I've been saying Microsoft PowerPoint. I am also aware that there are other options out there, especially through like OpenOffice, as well as through Google. And yes, please feel free to use those as well. Microsoft is the one that I have, and I think it is the most common, so that's the reason I default to those terms. But I'm the world's biggest believer in open source and alternative options. Use what you have is my fundamental belief. And what we're going to do is, before we put anything on the PowerPoint, we are going to go over to Design, Page Setup, and it defaults to the on-screen show of 423. What we want to do then is adjust it to something about 16.9. That way it shows the dimensions more in letterbox format, which will line up better with the thumbnails that we are working with. And the reason we do this is so the screen area that we're actually going to create will be in a similar ratio to what a YouTube thumbnail will be. Nothing's going to get stretched or morphed. The image that we create will be more visually pleasing and give us a final, better result. Now, let me take a moment to just briefly discuss kind of how I visualize the space on any thumbnail. I see it as there are 5 major areas to every thumbnail. There is the center mass, and then there are 4 corners as such. Now, while we're talking about the 4 corners, the reason I mention this is because I usually visually prefer to anchor things like photos, text, titles to 3 of the corners. And I like to have whatever my primary focus shot is in the center mass. Now, you'll notice I haven't mentioned the lower right corner, and there's a reason why. If we stop and take a look at what thumbnails look like when they're actually on your channel, keep in mind that in the lower right corner of every thumbnail, YouTube's automatically going to put that timestamp. So, in my early days, I didn't catch this, and I accidentally put art in that corner, which you can never see. Now, for instance, this one goes on to have my highest CTR, so that's not necessarily a deal breaker for you, but I do think it makes a good logic and common sense approach to not do that. When you are designing your own thumbnails at home, ignore the lower right corner, leave that space alone for the timestamp. Let's go ahead then and start working on a blank thumbnail. And I'll point out another benefit to using PowerPoint is since you can have multiple slides per PowerPoint, what I like to do on the second going forward slides, if I'm working on a similar subject that other YouTubers have done, I like to maybe take a look at their thumbnails, especially if there's a similar theme. Now, if you take a look here, we can see about 4 examples of different creators who had a very standardized, similar thumbnail theme. And for instance, if we were trying to make a thumbnail on a similar subject, you might want to try and make this similar as well. Again, not trying to copy, but we are trying to follow the role models of those who have had greater success than us on the platform, because you want to be recommended. And the greater the similarities, then the greater the likelihood of your video appearing on the recommended tab when other people are watching these videos. And the more similar you are with standardized formats, the greater you are increasing your odds of being clicked and winning that click. So let's go ahead and actually start designing some art on our thumbnail. Probably the first thing you're going to want to do is go to Insert and Shapes, and then I will let you know that the dimensions that we have set up on the full sheet are 10 inches across. So if you're wanting to do a half sheet with a color block like we're dealing with, then what we're going to do is go ahead and set the width here for 5. And I'll go ahead and get the color adjusted here to red. And I'll go ahead and take the outline out. That way I don't have to do something separate. Control C, Control V for the shape. We'll go ahead then and change the color to yellow. Then we're going to go ahead and add a second box then for the top portions. Go ahead again, take out the line to no outline. Make this black. Copy and paste. Okay. So at this point, you're going to go ahead, add in text, add in photos as you like. Give me a moment while I kind of I'll do the grind, you skip the time, but essentially you're just making a PowerPoint slide. Give me a moment. Alright, so with just some basic text, with just some basic color adjustments, you can kind of see how you're going to be able to get a very comparable thumbnail that you can be able to mix with that. And if you're highly curious and want to put some art onto it, you can do that as well. This is my mug. That's kind of why you very rarely see my face on the thumbnails. But in all honesty, as a gamer, the vast majority of what people come to me for are for the games themselves, so I've never really seen the point of doing that. Comment down below, would you like to see that face on thumbnails? Would that make you click more? If it'll increase click-through rate, I would be happy to oblige. And now the most important part. Go on up to File, and you're going to want to go down to the bottom and File as Other Formats. Bottom right there. And this is what's going to allow you to turn this PowerPoint into thumbnail art. Now the title, that works like any other title. You go ahead and name it whatever title is going to make sense for you to find it as your thumbnail. But the important part then is down below on the second row, we want to go down and select PNG. Okay? And what this will do is give you the option to save this slide, and this pop-up window will appear. And you really want to focus on just the slide that you were working on. I don't care about these other slides. I put them there as examples. So it's going to be the current slide only. Save that. And then that will convert this slide into usable art that you can upload. We'll go ahead and pull the copy up so you can see that for your reference here. And already you can see that we have that, but let me give you a better view of it. Go ahead and open this up. And this gives us a usable thumbnail we can use on YouTube or anywhere else. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. For thumbnail creation. And in fact, one of the things that I like the best is that it creates a template for you to standardize and normalize what your thumbnails will look like. This is especially helpful if you're going to do a series of videos and you want them to have a standardized art and a standardized appearance to look visually appealing across the board. So we see what I've got for my template for my Long Dark series. If you like survival games, I highly recommend it. But more to the point of the art today here, first thing we're going to do obviously is simply change the photo. So we'll go ahead and click onto the photo then, and we'll simply select change picture, and we'll go ahead and adjust it to the art that I like for this upcoming episode. Since we're changing the episode then, we're going to go ahead and change the on-screen text. And I'm liking that. And I've got the standardized art here as well. And if I wanted to move that, I certainly could. But again, I have, a standardized process that I work. I like how that's looking over here. Obviously, I know that there will be a timer right here. So that's how I make, thumbnails essentially. I've been known to put a third piece of art right here. But mostly, especially for games where I'm trying to make the game the hero, I try to let the game art speak for itself, and I just try to set the stage so I have, pretty photos to catch my audience's eye. Once I've gotten this to a point that I like it, I go ahead and do the standard again. File, Save As, Other Formats, and we'll go ahead and call this whatever title you want. Now, oops, I forgot to do something, and that's okay. File, Save As, Other Format, PNG, put the title in. There we are. If you don't get this pop-up, you're not creating the thumbnail. So this pop-up is your reminder. Expect the pop-up. Trust me, it saves your bacon a couple of times. Current slide only. Now you've got your thumb art. Now I want to put a bonus tip out here for you. You know what your standard process for YouTube is. You know if you're going to be sharing this on other platforms, social media. So if you know that you're going to move this thumbnail, I would suggest put a different little notice onto thumbnails for other social media. Okay? Especially when you know that other social media will not have the YouTube time clock. I substitute that corner for this little reminder. Follow for the full story. Or something to that extent. Change the phrasing for your preference, but it's a little additional visual cue to other platforms that they should actually click and follow you, and you can increase your following on those other platforms. Once you've gotten that little blurb in, we go back to File, Save As, again, Other Formats, and it's probably best just to get yourself into a habit of automatically then going down to the PNG, and then just to keep them easier recognized when I'm wanting to upload, I always add the second one is the same name, but I put follow under it. That way I know that that's the photo that has the little follow comment in the corner. So I hope that helps. If you want to see more examples of what you can do with just Microsoft PowerPoint, literally everything on the Commander Tom channel, all the channel art there was made on PowerPoint. And there's about 125 videos there for you to take a look at. So if you're curious what you can do for inspiration with nothing but PowerPoint, there's a lot right there. Now, I will also acknowledge that this is a little bit out of my norm. This type of video is. If this is something that you would like to see more of, I'm happy to give the people what they want, if I know what they want. So drop a comment down below. Did you like this? Would you like more YouTube advice? I'm happy to help. Now, the last thing I will say, of course, is If you got value out of this, leave a like and subscribe so when I make those videos, you actually hear about it. And finally, as a way of saying thank you for sitting through this and trying to show a bit of good faith, I also want to suggest a special video that I am making on my point of view on what it takes to be a YouTuber, on what you need to get 1 million views. If you would like to get 1 million views on your YouTube channel, go ahead and click that link now. I'm Commander Tom. I'll see you on the other side.